I thought the promotion would save my marriage. Instead, it exposed the crack that had already started to split us apart. The email arrived at 9:03 a.m., blinking on my screen like a dare. Senior manager, permanent, earned. My hands shook as I reread it, every sacrifice replaying in my chest like a silent film, late nights, missed birthdays, coffee instead of sleep. The office erupted before I could even stand. Chairs rolled back, hands clapped. Someone hugged me too tightly. Balloons appeared from nowhere, and my name echoed against glass walls I once felt too small to occupy. For the first time in years, I felt tall. "You deserve this," my colleague whispered. I smiled and said, "Thank you," but inside I was whispering it to the younger version of me who almost quit. On the drive home, the city looked different, brighter, kinder. Traffic lights felt like applause instead of punishment. I practiced telling him the news, imagining his laugh, his arms, the way he used to lift me off the floor when something good happened. I opened the door, still floating. The house smelled like detergent and silence. He sat on the couch, phone in hand, eyes tired. I said it in one breath, afraid confidence might evaporate if I paused. I got promoted. He looked up slowly. A smile appeared, practiced and neat, stopping just short of his eyes. "That's great," he said. No hug, no questions, no celebration. I told myself not to read into it. Everyone has bad days. Everyone gets quiet sometimes. Still, something inside me shifted like a picture frame knocked slightly crooked. At dinner, I talked. He nodded. The fork scraped the plate. The television murmured in the background, filling spaces where excitement should have lived. I noticed. He avoided my eyes when I mentioned the raise. "How much more?" he asked casually. I told him. He hummed, low and thoughtful, like he was calculating something invisible. That night, while brushing my teeth, I watched our reflections not meet. The mirror caught things I didn't want to name: distance, tension, a competition I never agreed to enter. In bed, he lay stiff beside me, scrolling endlessly. I stared at the ceiling, pride and dread tangling in my chest. This promotion was supposed to mean security, partnership, relief. Instead, the room felt smaller. I replayed every year we built together, wondering when success became a threat instead of a shared dream. I remembered when we opened our first joint account, laughing over small balances and big hopes. Back then, money was survival, not status. My wins were his wins. Somewhere along the way, that equation changed quietly, without my consent. I had been so focused on climbing that I missed the moment he stopped cheering and started measuring. The realization settled heavy in my stomach, a warning I didn't yet understand but could already feel tightening around my ribs. I wish I had asked then, instead of believing love would automatically adjust itself to my growth. I was wrong about that wrong. Just as I drifted toward sleep, he turned his head, voice sharp enough to cut through the dark. "We need to talk about money." And in that moment, I knew the promotion had cost me something I hadn't counted yet. Money didn't raise its voice. It whispered, and somehow that whisper changed the sound of our marriage. The conversation happened on a Tuesday night, dishes still drying on the rack, my promotion card from the office lying open on the table. Like proof I had finally mattered, he didn't look at the card. He looked at his phone, then at me like he was preparing a speech he'd already rehearsed. "We should separate our bank accounts," he said calmly. "Just financially," he added quickly, smiling like that made it harmless. I laughed at first because I thought it was a joke that missed its timing. My chest was still warm from congratulations, from hugs, from years of waiting to be seen, but his eyes didn't soften. They calculated. "It's modern," he said. "It's fair," he added, tapping the table twice. I felt my pride shrink into something small and cautious. I asked him why now, why after all these years of shared bills and shared dreams and shared sacrifices. He shrugged like the answer was obvious. "You earn more now," he said. "This just makes sense." The room felt suddenly narrower, like the walls leaned in to listen. I told myself not to be sensitive. I reminded myself love evolves, that marriages adapt. Still, something inside me flinched, like a quiet animal sensing danger before the storm. Arrives, I agreed because I didn't want to fight. I agreed because peace felt more important than pride. I agreed because I still believed love meant compromise. We sat at the kitchen table setting rules like strangers drafting a contract. His pen moved fast, mine hesitated. Every number felt like a line drawn through something intimate. "We'll keep one joint account for expenses," he said. "Everything else stays separate," I nodded, even though my stomach twisted. I told myself this was maturity, not distance. I told myself I was imagining the chill in his voice. That night, I lay awake listening to him breathe beside me, counting the seconds between inhales. I wondered when love started needing spreadsheets to survive. I wondered if success had made me taller or if it had just made him feel smaller. Days passed. The new system settled in like dust. Transfers replaced trust. Notifications replaced conversations. I noticed how often he checked balances now, how his mood shifted with numbers instead of moments. One evening, I walked into the living room quietly. He was sitting on the couch, phone angled away from me, shoulders tense. The glow of the screen reflected in his eyes, sharp and alert. When he heard me, he flinched. Too fast, too guilty. "What are you doing?" I asked lightly. "Nothing," he said, locking the screen. "Just checking stuff." I sat beside him, close enough to feel the heat of his body, far enough to feel the distance. He reached for my hand, but his grip was distracted, loose, already elsewhere. A notification buzzed. He turned the phone face down. My eyes drifted to the joint account app still open on his tablet across the room, numbers refreshed. A withdrawal flashed, then disappeared. I didn't remember approving it. My heart didn't race. It sank. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. I told myself love means trust, not suspicion. Still, the quiet crack inside me spread, slow and steady, like ice forming beneath my feet. That night, as he slept, his phone lit up again on the bedside table, and this time he turned it away from me in his sleep. Money learned my name before love forgot it. That was the night I realized our marriage had turned into a ledger. The rules didn't arrive loudly. They slid into our home wearing reason, wearing calm. He said it was time to be responsible. That grown-ups track things? I nodded, even though my chest tightened. He opened a spreadsheet at the dining table like it was sacred text. Rows, columns, categories, rent, utilities, groceries. "Just so we're clear," he said, tapping the screen. I smiled because smiling felt safer. "Why so detailed?" I asked. "So nothing gets out of hand," he replied. "Out of whose hand?" I wanted to say. Every purchase became a question. Coffee, shoes, a small gift for my mother. He didn't yell, he raised eyebrows. Disappointment delivered softly cuts deeper. The house changed its sound. Papers rustled more than laughter. The pen-scratching totals felt louder than our conversations. Even silence felt calculated, like it was waiting. To be justified, I earned more now, yet I paid more. Electricity bills slid toward me. Insurance renewals became my turn. He framed it as logic percentage-based fairness. I agreed again because arguing felt like confessing a crime. "Can you handle this one?" he asked. "I already paid 3, I said. He nodded. "You're better at it." I started proving my worth in numbers. I tracked myself before he could. I skipped small joys so the spreadsheet wouldn't accuse me. Success tasted dry, like paper. At work, people clapped for me. At home, I minimized myself. I stopped sharing wins. I downplayed bonuses. My promotion became something I hid, like it embarrassed him. Friends asked why I seemed distant. I joked about adulthood and budgets. Inside, I felt audited. Even happiness required documentation. At night, I lay awake replaying old versions of us. When did partnership turn into permission? I wondered if my growth scared him, or if control had always been waiting for an excuse. We sat together, but lived separately. 2 screens glowing. 2 worlds not touching. When I spoke about my day, His leg bounced, impatient. "You're quiet lately," he said. "I'm tired," I answered. "From what?" he asked. I folded laundry and folded questions with it. I told myself this was a phase. I told myself love evolves. But this evolution felt like subtraction. Then came the moment I couldn't explain away. Late night, dim room, toothbrush humming. His phone lit up on the bedside table, locked screen. One notification, a name I didn't recognize. It vanished before I could read more. My heart raced faster than any budget ever could. Sunday mornings used to smell like comfort. That day smelled like a lie. He woke before the alarm, already dressed, already distant. The room felt rushed, like time itself was pushing him out the door. I pretended to sleep, but my heart was wide. "Awake. I've got to run," he said, tying his shoes. "On a Sunday?" I asked. "Just a thing," he replied, not meeting my eyes. The door closed softly, too softly for someone who loved me. The lock clicked, and the sound echoed longer than it should have. I stared at the ceiling, counting breaths I couldn't slow. The house felt hollow without him. No television, no music. Just the hum of the refrigerator and my thoughts pacing the floor. I told myself not to spiral, not to ruin another day with suspicion. I made coffee I didn't drink. I folded laundry that didn't need folding. Every movement felt like waiting for something unnamed but heavy. Sundays were supposed to be shared. This one felt abandoned. I sat by the window and watched cars pass. Families, couples, normal lives moving forward. I wondered when mine had started going sideways without asking me. My phone stayed silent. No check-in. No thinking of you. I tried to justify it. He's busy. He deserves space. "You're overreacting." The words sounded rehearsed, like I'd used them too many times. I replayed the notification from the night before, the unfamiliar name, the way it vanished. I told myself it was work. I told myself successful men have complicated lives. I hated how easily I defended him. The clock ticked louder as the morning stretched. Noon came and went. My chest felt tight, like intuition pressing its thumb against my ribs. Something inside me kept whispering, "This is the day." I wandered into our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. His pillow was cold. I pressed my hand into it, searching for warmth that wasn't there. The emptiness felt intentional. "You're being dramatic," I said out loud. The room didn't argue back. I remembered the early days. Lazy. Sundays, breakfast in bed, shared screens and shared jokes. I remembered how safe I felt then, how unseen I felt now. The contrast hurt more than the absence. I walked into the study, a room we barely used anymore. The shared laptop sat on the desk, half open like it had been left in a hurry. I froze in the doorway. We'd always shared it. Passwords, files, calendars. It was never a secret space. Lately, though, he'd been protective of his phone, his tabs, his time. The laptop felt like a forgotten door. My heart argued with my head. Don't snoop. Trust him. Respect privacy. But another voice, quieter, steadier, asked why honesty suddenly needed guarding. I sat down slowly, like the chair might betray. My fingers hovered above the trackpad. I felt guilty before I even touched it, like I was about to cross a line I hadn't drawn. "If there's nothing, you'll feel stupid," I whispered. "If there's something, another part of?" Me replied, "You'll finally know." I thought about all the times I'd swallowed discomfort to keep peace. All the yeses that tasted like no. All the nights I fell asleep wondering when I'd stopped being enough. The screen flickered to life. No password. My stomach dropped. He'd rushed this morning. Forgotten things happen when people are distracted. I closed my eyes for a second. I pictured my life splitting into before and after. I didn't know which side I was about to land on. My finger pressed down. The desktop loaded quietly, innocently, like it wasn't about to change everything. I took a breath I didn't trust myself to hold. This was the moment I couldn't undo. The truth didn't explode. It leaked slow, silent, impossible to stop. The laptop hummed softly, indifferent to my shaking hands. The screen glowed in the dim room, casting light on a version of my life I didn't recognize. I stared at the desktop, breathing shallow, as if air itself might disturb whatever was hiding there. Just look, I told myself, just enough to feel calm again. I opened the email client first. My pulse thudded in my ears as folders loaded: inbox, sent, drafts, then folders I didn't know. Names that felt deliberately bland: finance, personal, archive. My finger hesitated before clicking. I could still stop, pretend none of this curiosity ever happened. But curiosity had already turned into dread. The first email was from a bank I didn't recognize. Not our bank, not even a familiar logo. Subject line: transfer confirmation. My throat tightened. I opened it. Numbers spilled across the screen. Dates, amounts, account details ending in. Digits I'd never memorized because they were never meant to be mine. My name wasn't there. Only his. That's not possible, I whispered. It has to be a mistake. I scrolled. Another email. Another confirmation, then another. Each. One colder than the last. Transfers made quietly, efficiently. Money leaving our shared savings and landing somewhere private, somewhere hidden. My chest felt hollow, like something had scooped me out without asking permission. I checked the dates once, twice, again, slower this time. The first transfer landed the week I got promoted. The next, right after my first larger paycheck, then another. And another. Every celebration at work echoed here as subtraction. Every smile I brought home had funded something I didn't know about. My success hadn't threatened him, it had fueled him. I laughed once, sharp and short. It sounded wrong in the quiet. House, so this is why, I said aloud. This is why the rules started. I clicked into the bank portal, my hands numb now. No password prompt. He'd trusted convenience over caution. Or maybe he'd never imagined I'd look. Balances stared back at me. One account we shared, shrinking slowly like a wound that wouldn't heal. Another, swollen and untouched by bills or groceries or responsibility. His. I scrolled through transactions until the words blurred. Electricity, rent, insurance, all paid from our account. Transfers timed neatly between my deposits. It wasn't impulsive, it was planned. My reflection stared back from the dark edge of the screen. I looked older, smaller, like someone who had been shrinking to fit a story that wasn't hers. Why? I asked the room. No answer came. I moved to another folder. This one labeled notes. My stomach clenched before I even opened it. Inside were documents, simple lists, casually cruel. Expenses she covers, my contributions, future allocations, she, not my name. Not wife, just a category. My hand started to shake again. He'd reduced me to a column, a percentage, a resource. Love hadn't turned into accounting. Love had been replaced by it. I slammed the laptop shut, then opened it again immediately, panic clawing at my ribs. I needed to see everything. I needed proof strong enough to survive denial. Keep going. I told myself, you're already bleeding. I searched his name. Then mine, then words I hated knowing to type. Transfer, savings, private. That's when I saw it. One transaction, buried among numbers, stood out like a bruise. The amount was smaller than the rest, but the label froze me in place. It wasn't generic, it wasn't coded. It was a woman's name. I stared at it, blinking hard, as if my eyes were inventing letters out of fear. But it stayed, clear, unapologetic, personal. My heart dropped so fast it felt physical. Who are you? I whispered to the screen. The date sat beside it. Sunday, the same Sunday he'd left early with excuses. The same morning I'd sat alone, convincing myself not to be dramatic. My phone buzzed suddenly, making me flinch. A message from him. Running late. Don't wait up. I looked back at the screen, at the name, at the amount. At the evidence of a life operating parallel to mine, funded by my trust. Something inside me went very still. I didn't cry, not yet. I closed the laptop carefully, like it was fragile, like it might shatter if I moved too fast. My hands rested on it for a moment, grounding myself in what I now knew. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was theft, deception, betrayal with timestamps. And somewhere out there, a woman had a name worth labeling. I didn't know who she was, but I knew this Sunday hadn't just felt wrong. It had been ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. The betrayal deepened with every click, like I was descending a staircase that had no bottom. I reopened the laptop with steadier hands this time. Shock had hardened into focus. If there was another life hidden behind numbers, I needed to see it clearly. Half-truths were more dangerous than lies. I searched the name again, then related emails. The inbox rearranged itself, obedient and cruel. Receipts appeared first digital, neat, undeniable. Jewelry purchases, boutique invoices, things I had never received, never seen, never worn. My throat tightened. That necklace, I whispered, staring at the screen. I remember that design. I had sent him a picture months ago, joking about how beautiful it was. He'd laughed, said maybe someday. The receipt showed he'd bought it 2 weeks later. Just not for me. I clicked deeper. Hotel bookings surfaced next. Weekend stays. Cities he'd claimed were client visits. Romantic packages, late check-ins. The language was intimate, curated for lovers, not professionals. My stomach dropped hard. Like missing a step in the dark, I imagined him there, smiling the way he used to smile at me, ordering room service. Turning his phone face down, I imagined another woman tracing the shape of a life I thought was mine. Unbelievable, I breathed. You really did this. Transfers connected. Everything. Rent payments marked monthly, consistent, generous. An apartment address I didn't recognize. Not our home. Not an investment property. A place he was building quietly, brick by brick, with money drained from our shared future. I leaned back in the chair, dizzy. This wasn't just an affair. It was infrastructure, planning, commitment. He wasn't cheating on impulse. He was maintaining a parallel existence. Love hadn't just turned into accounting. Accounting had financed deception. I scrolled until my eyes burned. Gift confirmations stacked on top of one another. Shoes, bags, electronics. Things I'd told myself we didn't need when money felt tight. Things he'd insisted we budget carefully for. We can't afford that, he used to say. Let's be responsible. The audacity made my chest ache. Responsibility, apparently, had a selective audience. I closed my eyes for a second and pressed my fingers to my temple. My pulse throbbed there, loud and insistent. Every memory began rearranging itself, aligning with this new truth. Late nights, sudden trips, emotional distance I'd blamed on stress. I saw it all now, painfully clear. How long? I asked the empty room. How long have I been funding my own replacement? I found messages next. Short confirmations, thank yous, heart emojis I'd stopped receiving years ago. He sounded lighter there, freer, less careful with his words. I felt stupid for mourning that version of him. He hadn't disappeared. He'd just relocated. The house creaked softly, settling. Afternoon light slanted across the floor. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt real anymore. I was sitting inside a set, realizing the story had been rewritten. Without me, I checked the clock. He wasn't supposed to be home for hours. My hands trembled as I took screenshots, emails, transfers, bookings, proof, layered over proof. I sent copies to myself, each ping of confirmation grounding me in reality. Don't forget, I told myself. Don't let him rewrite this later. The sound of a key scraping metal froze my blood. I looked up sharply, heart slamming against my ribs. The front door handle turned slowly, casually. Too early, too soon. The laptop was still open, the evidence glowing. No time to hide it. No time to decide who I was going to be next. The door opened, and he walked in. I never thought a Sunday could feel like a battlefield. But there I was, standing in his living room, the sunlight streaming through the blinds, cutting lines across the floor like silent witnesses. My hands were steady, though my chest felt like it was trying to escape. I need to know the truth, I said, voice quieter than I intended. Too calm, maybe? Too controlled? I felt every second stretch out like the world itself was holding its breath. He looked at me, eyes narrowing, lips twitching, and then he laughed. A short, sharp laugh full of disbelief. Dramatic, he said, always dramatic. You make mountains out of molehills. I felt a flicker of anger, or was it hurt? Maybe both. I swallowed it down, forcing the calm I didn't feel. This isn't drama, this is reality. He shook his head, pacing now like the living room was a cage he had to patrol. Ungrateful, you think I owe you explanations for everything? His voice hit a high note, cracking slightly. And I realized how much he was holding back. I watched him. Really watched him. The way his hands trembled when he ran them through his hair. The way his jaw clenched so tight it looked like it could break. I had never seen him like this before. And it terrified me. You don't get it, I whispered. It's not just about the money, he froze, then laughter again. Sharper this time. Crazy, he spat. You're crazy. Everything's fine, everything has been fine, and now you're making it messy. I felt the old weight of our years together pressing down on me. Every memory of laughter, every shared secret, it was all tangled with the fear and mistrust now. And yet, a strange, painful clarity settled over me. I was finally seeing him without the veil of excuses, without the comfort of my own denial. He stopped pacing. The air felt electric, heavy. His eyes found mine, almost afraid, almost pleading. Then, just as suddenly, silence fell. Thick, suffocating silence. He started, voice barely audible. Then he shook his head as if shaking it could undo some invisible truth. I didn't want you to find out like this, my heart hammered. I couldn't breathe. Find out what? He looked away, staring at the sunlight slicing across the floorboards, then back at me. And then the words came hesitant, trembling, but real. The money. His voice cracked. It wasn't just about the money. I blinked, and the room felt colder. The calm I had clung to slipped like water through my fingers. 1,000 scenarios rushed into my head. What else had he been hiding? What had I been blind to all this time? Then what else? I demanded, voice shaking despite my attempts at control. He swallowed hard, and I could see the weight of years of secrets pressing down on him. There's more, he whispered, and it wasn't just a word. It was a confession, a warning, a promise of storms yet to come. The silence stretched again, longer this time. Our shadows on the wall flickered as the sun moved behind the clouds. My chest ached, my mind raced. Every memory of him, every lie I had suspected but never proven, converged into a single, terrifying question. How much of him had I really known? I need you to tell me everything, I said, almost more to myself than to him. My voice was softer now, raw, trembling. No more secrets. He looked at me, and I thought I saw something break inside him. Something fragile, human, painfully real. I tried to protect you, he said. I really did. But the words felt hollow against the tension thickening the room. Protect me from what? And more importantly, from who? A sudden creak from the hall made both of us flinch. The dog barked once, then silence again. It was like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for what came next. I took a step closer, heart hammering, voice steadier than I felt. Tell me, now, he swallowed. His eyes darted to the blinds, to the floor, back to mine. And, then finally the confession slipped, slow, deliberate, almost painful to hear. It wasn't just the money, he said again. There's something else, something you don't know, something I never wanted you to know. I froze. My pulse thudded in my ears. The room spun slightly, though the floor stayed solid beneath. My feet, my hands tightened into fists, nails digging into my palms. And in that instant I realized the Sunday confrontation was only the beginning, because whatever he was about to tell me, it would change everything. Word count, 700. I felt it before I heard the words, the cold knife of accusation slicing through the room. You've changed, he said, voice low, almost venomous. His eyes didn't meet mine. They darted, flinched like he was afraid of the truth even as he tried to throw it at me. It hit me harder than I expected. I froze because I had thought I was walking into calm conversation, into understanding, but there was no calm, only blame. Only gaslighting. You think this promotion, your little success, makes you better than me? His words bounced off the walls, heavy and sharp. I wanted to laugh or cry. Instead, I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside me. It's not like that, I whispered. My voice sounded small, weak even to my own ears. But he didn't hear it. He couldn't hear it. He shook his head. No, you're different. You're proud now. You're untouchable. You've forgotten who you are. Who we are, I stared at him. Really stared. And in that moment, clarity hit me. It wasn't just about the promotion or my confidence or my independence. It was never about that. It was about control, about fear, about keeping me under the weight of his judgment so I wouldn't fly too high. All the pieces fit together. The late-night criticisms masked as concern, the dismissive laughs at my ideas, the subtle digs at my achievements. Every conversation had been carefully loaded to make me doubt myself. You make me feel small, he said finally, almost as if he were confessing, like I'm not enough. And I realized then that it wasn't me he was fighting, it was himself. His own insecurities projected onto me. His own failures, his own guilt masquerading as my flaw. You're gaslighting me, I said. The words came out steadier than I felt. You've been doing it for years. He blinked, stared, and then laughed. A hollow, sharp laugh, meant to cut, meant to confuse. Gaslighting? Don't make me the villain here. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive, I wanted to scream. To throw something, to make him see, finally see, what he had done. But I didn't. I just stood there, trembling every nerve. Screaming, I noticed how the sunlight fell across the room, catching dust and golden lines. The same sunlight that had once seemed warm and safe now felt like an interrogator, revealing everything. The furniture, the floor, the walls, they all felt like witnesses to years of manipulation, of blame, of guilt layered over love. You think I changed? He continued, voice quieter now, almost pleading. But maybe it's you. Maybe you? Just left me behind. I felt my chest tighten. Every part of me wanted to argue, to defend, to justify. But I realized I didn't owe him my explanations anymore, not for my life. Not for my choices. For the first time I saw the pattern fully, without excuses. I saw the constant shifting of blame, the subtle undermining, the way my achievements became his attacks. And I knew I had to make a choice. A real choice. I thought of all the nights I had doubted myself, all the times I had questioned my own worth because of his words, all the little moments I had shrunk to fit his version of us, and something inside me snapped. I can't do this anymore, I whispered. The words shook me. They were true, but fragile, like walking on ice that could crack at any moment. He stared, mouth opening, closing. Shock, disbelief, and something else I didn't recognize flickered across his face. Rage? Sadness? Or maybe the mix of both that always came after a confession he didn't expect. You're abandoning me, he said, voice breaking now, almost desperate. I wanted to tell him I wasn't abandoning him, that I was saving myself. But the words felt heavy, impossible. Instead, I just looked at him, and for the first time, I let myself see him clearly. Not the man I hoped he was, but the man he had been, and in that clarity, I felt something terrifying and liberating at the same time. A decision forming, fragile, but undeniable. A choice that scared me more than anything I had faced before, because stepping into my truth meant leaving the comfort of his world, even though that world had never been kind. Even though it had been my home in so many ways, I swallowed hard. Heart hammering, my hands shook. But I knew I couldn't turn back. Not this time. The room was quiet, but the silence felt alive, like it was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. I took a slow step toward the door, and in that moment, the weight of years of blame and guilt pressed down on me like a storm dot, and then I whispered, barely audible, I'm done. I can't stay here anymore. He froze. The air between us thickened. My chest ached, my mind raced. And I realized once I crossed this line, nothing will ever be the same. Because leaving wasn't just a choice. It was a reckoning. I never thought financial security could feel like revenge. But that morning, staring at the numbers in my account, I realized it could feel like freedom too. He had overlooked it, the account he thought I'd never touch. The one he assumed I'd never need. I held the screen like a shield, proof of my autonomy, proof that I could stand without him. I downloaded every statement, printed every document. Each page was a small victory, a quiet declaration that I wasn't powerless anymore. The papers piled up on the desk, crisp and solid. Like stepping stones across a river I was finally ready to cross. For years, he had tried to convince me I didn't deserve, I couldn't handle, I wasn't capable. And now I had the proof in my hands. Proof that I could thrive, that I had thrived even while he doubted me. I whispered to myself, almost in disbelief, "This is mine. All mine." The lawyer I contacted didn't ask for details beyond the facts. We spoke in muted tones, in a cafe corner where no one could listen. I handed over my documents carefully, deliberately, as if each page carried not only evidence, but pieces of my fractured dignity. "You're taking the right steps," the lawyer said, eyes steady. "Protect yourself quietly. Don't let him know yet." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Quiet had always been my strategy, but this felt different. This wasn't about hiding, it was about reclaiming. About proving, first to myself, that I could make decisions that were right for me, even if they terrified me. Back at the apartment, the air felt heavier than usual. The sunlight slanted through the blinds, casting harsh stripes across the floor. I set the papers down carefully, arranging them like soldiers standing guard. He entered the room, humming softly, unaware. And I watched him, heart hammering, noticing every detail I had ignored for years, the tension in his shoulders, the slight twitch when he caught my gaze, the way his eyes darted around the room like a man already suspecting. "You've been quiet all day," he said casually, but there was a note underneath, sharp, probing. "Everything okay?" I smiled, a thin, careful smile. "Yes, just thinking." He frowned, as if he could sense the tremor beneath my words. I could almost feel him trying to measure the distance between us, trying to see what had shifted. I moved around the apartment deliberately, placing documents in folders, double-checking passwords, confirming access. Each action grounded me. Each step reminded me, for the first time, I had control. Not over him, not over the past, but over myself. "You've changed," he said suddenly, almost under his breath. "Something's different," I froze. That subtle observation, so casual, cut deeper than any accusation before. He didn't know yet, but he could feel it, the shift in power, the awareness in me that had been dormant, smothered under years of manipulation, guilt, and blame. "I'm just careful," I said lightly, forcing normalcy into my tone. But my heart raced, each beat echoing the tension between us. Careful, but no longer fearful. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, the air thick with unspoken truths. Every glance he gave me carried suspicion. And for the first time, I realized he didn't just underestimate me, he feared me, though he wouldn't admit it. I sat at the desk, staring at the pile of proof before me. Salary slips, bank statements, legal documents, all tangible signs that I had built something he thought he could control. Something he thought he could erase with. A word, a sigh, a subtle manipulation, and now he would find out. Not all at once, not yet. But the moment was coming. A shift had begun that neither of us could stop. "You're hiding something," he said finally, eyes narrowing. "I can feel it." I didn't answer, I just looked at him, calm, steady, unafraid. The silence stretched, thick and tense, like the calm before a storm. In that instant, I felt the full weight of the decision I had made, the decision to reclaim myself, quietly but completely. The decision to stop letting fear dictate my life. The decision that, when revealed, would change everything. He took a step closer, and I noticed the tension in his jaw, the subtle panic in his eyes. He didn't know what I had done, but he sensed. the shift, and I realized the moment of revelation was approaching. The moment where control, long denied to me, would finally be mine, because he had forgotten one thing: I had prepared. I had proof. I had a plan, and when he truly realized what I had done, nothing would be the same.